Okay. Just making sure that I'm live wherever I need to be live. Welcome everybody to the George Mokwena show. This is a show where I get to look at a couple of stories that caught my eye, some things that have taken my attention, and I get to speak to you about it a little bit separate from the normal show. If you want to be part of a discussion, that show is on at 7 p.m. Mondays to Thursdays, where you can catch me and a whole bunch of other people, and you can actually jump into the show yourselves and we can have a conversation. This one is just for me to get some of these things off from what I've seen, and I'm going to jump straight into it. First things first. For some reason, TikTok keeps banning me and saying that I'm reproducing content. I'm not live. Guys, can you please give me a comment there on TikTok so that I can show the TikTok algorithm that I am actually live? This is a real live show. It's not pre-recorded or anything like that. So if you could just drop me a comment there on TikTok, just so that the algorithm can be satisfied, the AI can be satisfied, that would be great. Okay, so let's talk. I want to start off today with a conversation about PSL referees. But I don't want to have the conversation about the results that have happened. I don't want to have a conversation about their performances. There's a specific conversation that I've noticed and I want to have. First things first, the one big problem that I'm seeing, Ongabeti says, Ujile suti bafana. TikTok, I just read a comment, AI at TikTok. Okay, so where I'm going to start with this referee's conversation, away from the results, is to speak about one, referee safety. There's been a lot that has been happening over the past few weeks when it comes to referees. We've seen referees be chased by players. We've seen chair people of teams coming down to the field to come and speak to referees. We've seen coaches go off. We've seen people in some videos where they're speaking to referees in corridors at stadiums, right? And it kind of worries me because it shows how accessible these referees are, and especially at key moments. Yes, I could feel like I was robbed, and I could have been robbed, but I don't have the luxury of a replay and all those things when I'm sitting on the bench watching the game, right? You don't have it when you see it live, even the ref. So now accosting the ref and doing all of that seems to me to be a lot more performative than it is something that's going to help. And especially when it comes from people that are like Gabo Tim Sugazi, who are, like I said, he's the chairperson of his team, and he knows that there are ways to follow up and report and do all of those things when a referee has done wrong, when you feel as though something is amiss. We've seen Abu Rulani speaking to Bocheli Chavani outside of the changing rooms of the referees. Outside of the referees' changing rooms, talking to them about maybe why did you make the decision, why did you do this, why did you do that, right? And for me, that is a very worrying factor because one, the ref is not safe, they can be gotten to quickly, but then secondly, can we look at these things as undue influence? But that's not necessarily what I want to speak about today. What I want to focus on when we speak about referees is what happens after a decision and what happens after a match has ended, and is it conducive to us learning anything or viewing referees or decisions in a certain way? Coach Rulani can go and speak to Ucheli Chavani and say to him, my guy, it doesn't seem like you made the right decision and all of that. They can have that conversation. But Rulani gets to go out into a press conference and have his say, and ask questions, and ask leading questions and things like that. On Mondays, Soccer Zone, Supersport, they get to break down everything that happened during the week. But what's interesting is that we never get to hear exactly where referees are sitting. I still don't know what Jelly Chavani's voice sounds like, if I am being 100% honest with you. And that is worrying because if we catch information here and there, that could influence how we act at the next game, how we act with these referees, how we treat the referees, right? in England, there's something called the Professional Game Match Officials Limited. It's a company called PGMO. They run everything for the referees when it comes to referees for England. They're funded partly by the FA, they're funded partly by a bunch of sponsors that are within the English game. And they make sure that, you know, when the referees do something wrong or something happens, or running of referees in general, they professionalize it, they handle all those things, right? So what's nice about them is after matches, they will admit at times when they were wrong. They will admit at times that there was an instance last year in February where the head of referees that side, Howard Webb, was sent to Arsenal and Aston Villa to go and apologize to them and take accountability for VAR mistakes that were made during their matches. They call them significant errors that were made, right? And in that way, there is a little bit of PR on it where you look at it and you go, okay, fine, there's somebody who's taking accountability, or there's somebody who can explain what went wrong. But if in our footballing culture right now in SA, Rulani comes out and says something, Sid Ramovic comes out and says something, we see those things trending, Hlongwane says something on Monday, Ace Ngobo says something the following week, then we watch those things and we go, oh yeah, this is what the referee does. And at no point do we have an official confirmation of the error from the referees or an association of the referees or anything, or where they teach us where to learn these rules. All you'll ever have is what the people have said. And I think that is very dangerous in our particular football, that, for example, a coach can come out and say something and never have to apologize. A coach can come out and say something today, tomorrow, or it could be right, but we never hear anything from the refereeing guys. All you'll ever hear later on is that they were suspended. You don't know why. You don't know what the grounds were. There's so many things that we miss. And it goes back to a point that I'm going to drive home a lot today as we get into the other topics, where I speak of the lack of communication being something that ruins our football. It would be nice to hear somebody representing Ucheli Chavani, or even Cheli Chavani himself as an example, coming out and saying, okay guys, according to law, mang 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 and mang 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 mang, I interpreted it like this and like this and like this. This is what I saw. This is what we decided. Now we've got a teachable moment, and I've already got something from the ref. Even in situations when they're wrong, it would be very nice for refs to come out and say, guys, we made a significant error and we're trying to fix that error, or we apologize to the teams. Of course, nothing can be done afterwards, but we apologize for the teams. We are looking to work on things like that to make them better. I think that communication would maybe help us know more about the game, but also understand the refs. You know, it would be so nice to not only hear from the errors and things like that, but to hear them tell me that as a ref, this is what happened. I saw this, I saw that. This is how we are when we're working. This is what we see. This is what we have access to. A range of things can happen. I saw people complaining about the fact that there was a conversation that was done with the fourth official. As far as I know, that is not an illegal thing. But when a coach comes out and says, who was he talking to? You know, when a coach comes out and says, it seems like we have VAR, right, in a press conference. And then it's then proven that whatever error was made or whatever decision was made was the right one. They don't come back and apologize. How many fans are sitting with the same thing, Yoguti wrong? How many fans are sitting with the wrong view of the referees and things like that? So I would urge SAFA, as the people who are in charge of the referees, maybe create some sort of way where referees can account for themselves, or an association that covers the referees can account on behalf. When there's questions that are made about certain decisions that have been done, have them have an opportunity to come out and clear things up, clear up the air. You know, because I think that will go a long way in not only teaching us the game and making things clear for us, but also we might actually start feeling for these referees. Maybe we start seeing them differently, and maybe we start interacting with them. And to the clubs, I think it's really, really, really irresponsible for you guys to be the ones that are making such noises. I think it's very responsible because us fans don't have access to those, those recourse things that you guys have where you can go and complain about refs. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. All we have is your word about the ref, and especially when it comes from chair people like Utim Sugazi. Don't be on the pitch going to the ref. You are a chairperson. You can write to the PSL if there's an issue. That's another thing. How many times do we hear teams complaining, but we never hear about an official complaint lodged by the team? We never hear about those things. But then we don't see them when they have to now lodge a complaint. I love what Young Africans did. Fine, you felt away about a decision that was made. May have taken it too far with calling it match fixing, but they did what? They kept quiet and they took out a statement, a report. They lodged a complaint to CAF. That's how you do it. But if you're going to come out and complain, now it's wrong and nobody's coming out to complain or clear the air, what happens then? Naboref, you can't keep being silent partners. You can't keep silent. You can't come out and we never hear from you guys how you feel as an organization, SAFA or whoever runs it there. We never hear from you guys as to where did we get it wrong? We got it wrong here. We're working to fix it. Where's the accountability from you guys? Everything in our football is behind closed doors, and I think that really does hurt what can be done in football. I don't think it's going to be a bad thing to have those conversations. You get what I mean? So that's why I'm starting this off with a little bit of a confirmation or communication type conversation. I want to then move on to the next topic. The next topic is about fans. Coach Rulani said some very interesting things last night, and I'm going to use him as a jumping point for fans. I want to have a conversation about us fans in two separate spheres. Number one, last night Mamelodi Sundowns played. Mamelodi Sundowns is still unbeaten in the league. Mamelodi Sundowns got another win, but there was booing of Onyango. There's been rumblings from a lot of Sundowns fans that they, should Rulani be fired? Should this happen? Should that happen? Will this team? What do we do? They're shaking, right? And on the one hand, I get the teams when they say, especially Sundowns, when they say, as the guys, you guys are meant to be fans. You're meant to come here and you're meant to support us. You can criticize, you can do all of those things, but don't come to the game and start booing the players that are sacrificing, that are playing, that are doing all of these things, because you also ruin what they're trying to do. Everywhere else in the world, usually, the fans are a 12th man. The fans are a source of strength for teams. The fans come out in their numbers, and at times when things are looking rough, they're the ones that can start a comeback. But now you have fans that, support the Sundowns at the stadium booing players. You know how tough it gets sometimes at Loftus Stadium when the games are not going the way, to the point where a coach like Rulani has to come out and defend himself. Yesterday he was defending himself in his press conference, talking about, no, guys, it's not always going to be easy to win. It's going to be ugly sometimes, not always going to be beautiful, but we expect our fans to be behind us. We expect them to support. We expect them to do all of that stuff. So in one part, I do understand that fans can be very, very, very unfair. Fans can take how they feel and bring it onto the pitch and bring it to them, bring it onto the pitch, bring it onto socials, do all of that stuff that really does harm teams and is to the detriment of teams. And I get it, I understand it, and Ukos Rulani was very eloquent with what he said last night, and it's actually very sad. I'm not even a Sundowns fan, but to know that there's a team that's playing consistently in the knockout rounds of the CAF Champions League, they're in the semi-finals right now, and people are jeering. And people are not happy, and people, in the stadium act a certain way. Yo, guys, I don't know how I feel about that. And there is a toxicity to our fans. There is a toxicity to our fans. And I want to move it away from Sundowns because their situation is completely different. they win. They've been winning. They've been doing well. You know, they're about to do things like Club World Cups and things. So I think their fans are unfair. But on the other hand, there's a conversation that I've been hearing, especially to do with another team that hasn't been doing well for a very long time, where fans are blamed for a lot of the things that happen at clubs. And this is not a conversation that I think we should be having. You know, there's a team that's 9 years deep with not winning anything. And you still expect fans to act right and to work right and to trust you guys and to fall in line and to not say all of those things. I think that is insane. I think that some of these teams take fans for granted. And I also think some of these teams use fans as a scapegoat. You can't blame fans for the decisions You can't blame the fans for the decisions that your team has made. See, Sundowns can make as much noise as they want about fans in general, and Rulani can come speak about those things because they are winning. But when it comes to other teams who are not pulling their weight in the relationship, you start thinking to yourselves, "Hey man, guys, you can't blame social media. You can't." Guys, goodbye fan in some cases where you followed a team that was very successful, that was right, that was doing everything that you wanted properly. And now that same team turns around later on when they've been messing up and they blame it on you. What relationship do these teams have with fans? I heard a chairperson of a club, last time I stated his name, I got banned, but I heard a chairperson of a club coming out and saying social media is the issue. Social media, fans on social media, we want things too quickly, we can't be patient, we can't do anything. Let's look at the majority of the league right now. Look at the majority of the league right now. Sundowns wins leagues every year. Pirates has won its trophies. Stellenbosch has won a trophy now. How many other teams can genuinely say that they've done everything in their power to do everything for their fans? In such case that fans must keep quiet. And I also don't like it when it's coming from fellow fans. Guys, we sit in the same stands. We watch the same TV. Agnamuntu support Kaizer Chiefs right now. I don't know about the branches, but in general, right now. I make a noise, you make a noise. Why must the team listen to me? To the point where they blame me. And I think that it's gone on too long. And I'm going to focus on my team. On my team. But hey, we do everything that you guys want. We do everything. Hey, we did this, we did that, we did that, just so that you guys can go and you know, put on those jerseys and buy those jerseys. Only for them to turn around and go, yeah, guys, are you real fans? Imagine that. A team that has been messing up. A team that has been messing up for 9 years can turn around and look at fans and say, yeah, you guys are the problem. You guys need to pipe down. I like what Abu Rulani came out and said. He said it again yesterday when he was speaking about the fan part of this, where he said, guys, Kupa 4 years. Guys, we've got all these records that we've done. Can you give me leeway? Can you give my players leeway? That's understandable, but Lababanye, I don't know, man. I don't know if they can do that. And I really feel like, you know, we misunderstand a lot of what fans go through. The teams misunderstand a lot of what us fans go through. Let me change it. They misunderstand that we sit and we love these teams with everything. We've supported them for decades. Nandi to log in. Sometimes I'm live when I have to do these shows and people are speaking to me. Sometimes I'm doing it, hey, but I have to carry on with this show and do all of those things. Some of you don't even live nicely when you go to work. The moment you get to work, they're on top of you. It's a daily thing for you guys. You've loved them. Ntenga Makit, just like Chiefs was 1,100 when it came out at some point, sold out. Those are all people. 4,000. Those are all people. But yet now, when you turn around after all of that and all of that contribution, instead of saying, guys, we apologize, we hear you, we see you, we understand, we know what we need to go do, we are going to do it, we are holding ourselves accountable. They turn around and they say, the problem is you. We're not to go watch them at a stadium. We're not to go and get jerseys. You who banter us in Facebook groups, in WhatsApp groups, and all of that stuff, they take us for granted. And sometimes it's not even as extreme as Kaizer Chiefs. Sometimes you look at some of the other teams and you go, but guys, what are you doing in order to make your fans happy? What are you doing in order to keep fans on board? How many teams run activations? How many teams highlight things? How many teams are actively involved in making fans' lives better? All of those type of things. I don't think there's many. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to touch on that it's not anything based on a news thing. It's just I've been hearing these narratives that have been going around. I've been hearing these narratives. And it really, it sucks, man. But anyway, here's an actual topic. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes of today. Yesterday we were watching the Sundowns game. Sundowns, of course, won. And of course, there was the fan stuff that happened. But it opened up a very interesting conversation that we started to have on Last Light's show. And I want to see how you guys feel about this. We all know that it's been 8 years, maybe, since Sundowns won the Champions League, right? 8 years since Sundowns won the Champions League. They've got into the semis last year. They're in the semis right now. They're looking very good. They've been one of the big dogs in Africa for a very long time. It has been maybe around a decade in terms of African success, where they've been at the top of the mountain, right? But it prompted a very simple question. And it's not to do with rulani and all of that. It's to do with, what does it look like when a team takes the next step? And does Sundowns have to sacrifice some of its family orientation in order to go fight Bo Ahly? And I mean it like this. Go Ahly, the Champions League is a must. The Champions League is a non-negotiable if you're a coach of Ahly. You staying at Ahly after not winning a Champions League is very, very slim. Regardless of whether you've won the league, regardless of whether you've done any of that. And they move in a sense that everybody understands what the true goal is here, right? And what's interesting about mamelodi Sundowns is it took Pitso X amount of years to go and win the Champions League. You guys haven't won it. Sundowns hasn't won it ever since then. Does there come a time where you have to start instituting the ruthlessness of an Ahly in order to take the next step? Is it a necessary step? Because when you look at mamelodi Sundowns, a lot of what mamelodi Sundowns does is still influenced by Pitso, right? And it's good. It's not me saying that it's bad. It's still influenced by Pitso, you know. Coach Pitso came in. Rulani was the under-19 coach, was an inside guy, you know, he grew with his coaching with Sundowns, obviously he left for those, 2 years, came back, he's now the head coach. Does that emotional tie hamper that emotional tie maybe hamper how Rulani and coaches of mamelodi Sundowns would be viewed? Even when Manqoba Mngqithi was moved aside, right? He wasn't fired. He was demoted, right? They still couldn't let go of him. And when you are now almost 10 years from the time you won the Champions League, right? Does there come a time that management maybe should go, you know what, guys, it needs to become a machine all the way through? Coach Rulani said something last night where he said, give me 4 years. All I ask is for 4 years. He listed it. He listed that, it took Coach Pitso this long. He listed that, they've got a continental trophy. He listed that, they've got the league. But then he was like, with regards to the Champions League, which is a completely different conversation I want to have later on, but with regards to the Champions League, give him 4 years to try and win this trophy. And in my head, I was like, I don't think there's an Ahly coach that would say that. And what's interesting is the responses that I get, especially from South Africans when it comes to coaching. The responses that I get and making changes all have to do, with if I get rid of him now, everything will collapse. If I make a move, everything will collapse. If we do this, I'll be at Chiefs. If I do that, he actually hinted to it, Rulani. He said something similar, he just didn't say the team name. Everything will collapse. But then when you look at some of the more successful teams in the world in terms of continental competition, your Real Madrids, your Ahlys, you might say that policy that they've instituted was actually something that gave them more of these trophies. Right? And it's not to say it's right, because on the flip side of that conversation, you could argue that everything Sundowns has built up to this point has been built through a familiarity, a similarity, This one comes in after this one, and that one was under this one before he came in. Coach Pitso came in, groomed Rulani. Rulani came through the ranks, under 19, came back to Sundowns, pulled in by Pitso. You could say that that's a succession plan. Pitso brought in Mangoba. Mangoba sat under Pitso for a very long time. Then when he became the head coach, there's a conveyor belt at Sundowns that moves through that team, that makes sure that when a new coach comes in or a new person comes in, they're not new in a sense, and they can carry on with the structure and tradition of Sundowns, right? They can come in and, follow a trend, and it's not hard to go and rebuild. You don't have to go rebuild or go and build around these guys, right? So you could argue that Sundowns' success at this current moment has come from that. Then I ask, how do you take the next step then? If Rulani was to win the Champions League and he moves on, and 7 years from now, you sit with another coach who has to win it in 4 years, 5 years, is it then you look at it and you go, since we can't repeat this thing as much as we need to, do you change? And I think that's a very interesting question when it comes to how do you win, How do you win and how do you do those things? And there is questions, and you can make valid points about when you're fighting guys, you're fighting heritage, is what they say. It's heritage. Real Madrid has a heritage of winning this thing. Ahly has a heritage of winning this. But also, I think at some point, Ahly had to make the call to say, guys, we're taking this thing serious now. We're taking this thing serious. Now, it's not an if, and, or but. You have to win the Champions League as a Sundowns coach. At what point do you get to that? You've dominated the league. This is going to be the 7th time you win the league. You're 6 points away from winning the league early. You've won it 7 years in a row. You are the team that has won the most titles, league titles within South African football. Incredible achievement. But you're also a team that has looked Africa in the eye a lot and hasn't gotten over the hump. Now, again, they could get over the hump. They could get over the hump this year. It could be something. But it bears asking the question. To Rulani's point, when he spoke about a team that struggled, I look at Kaizer Chiefs, for example, and the chopping and changing of coaches and the loss of philosophy and all of that stuff has really hurt Kaizer Chiefs. And it's part of the reason why we haven't won any trophy in such a long time. But to back the point that I'm making, when Chiefs was at the top, there was a a disconnection between the coaches and the management. And I mean it by saying you knew as a Chiefs coach that you wouldn't get 3 years at Chiefs. Before Steve Kompela, very few coaches at Chiefs, I'm trying to think of them now, got more than 3 years at Chiefs. Niwina. And I think part of it was that they had this unemotional, job-like relationship with those coaches. Come in, you win, we are hamba. Come in, you win, you are hamba. And you could argue that one of the places where they lost it was when they went, you know, Coach Steve is somebody who was a coach that has been in the PSL for a while, and he deserves to get time. You know, Atazwani is, you know, one of our own. He came in from inside. We need to bring him in and give him time and do all of that stuff. When they started shifting towards process and project and all of that, they kind of lost their way, right? So it's a very interesting, I don't want to lean on any side of it. I just feel like it's such an interesting conversation, especially for a team as amazing as Sundowns. At this point, you would have thought that Sundowns would have 4, 5, 6 Champions Leagues in the bag. You know, they come out and they outplay Ahly. They come out and people park the bus. They come out and they keep doing these things. But it seems that there's a glass ceiling that Sundowns just doesn't happen to get over. What are some of the ways that you can get over that hump as a team? It's a very, very interesting convo when we speak about it. It's a very, very interesting convo when you speak about it. And I know some of you may not care for the conversation, but these are the things, man, when we break down football, we have to speak about. Why does Ahly have 11 of those titles? Why does Ahly, even when they are outplayed and it looks bad and they've got, you know, Coach Rulani said he watched the Ahly game that they played versus TP Mazembe and he fell asleep and it was ugly. Ahly has not looked like a dominant team over the past 5 years when you watch them play, but they win. What gives you that quality, and how does Sundowns gain that quality? Super, super important question, but I wanted to bring it up and I wanted to put it in your court. Maybe we'll speak about it on the show, but what do you guys think about how does Sundowns become a team that can continue and repeat winning a Champions League? And do they have to copy what happens up north, or can they make their own way with how they run and keep it in-house and all of that stuff, you know? But yeah, anyway, let me move on to the last topic for today. I want to revisit the topic. A couple of weeks ago, I did a topic speaking about bafana and banyana marketing. And I spoke about the comparisons. I made a comparison with how the Springboks do their marketing. And I've seen a general way that people are speaking about what I'd spoken about when it comes to that. And they're making it more about, you know, you're comparing Bafana and Banyana to the Springboks. And number one, no, nobody was comparing that. It was comparing what the Springboks affiliates do with the success of their teams. When the Springboks win, whether it's the King Tri-Nations, I forgot what it's called now, the new Tri-Nations tournament, whether they win the World Cup and all of that, they have a certain way to celebrate. And everybody made it about the love. You know, the love is, you know, Springboks win, so the love comes because of the winning. And the Springboks do this, and it's just a genuine place. But there's a whole business side that comes to this conversation. And that's why I have SABC Sport up here. I wanna then go at it from a business perspective. Let's not speak about the Springboks and their winning and all of that. Why do you fight for rights? Why do you fight for rights to broadcast things? You fight for rights to broadcast things because that gives eyes to your broadcaster. You understand that when you win the rights to the EPL, you can then bring it to your broadcaster. I know that the South African market is going to watch the EPL, and as they watch the EPL, I am going to put ads around it and I'm going to make revenue back from that deal. Deal done. So it's in your best interest to market, your best interest to promote. So I'm going to go back to the example that I had made about the Springboks. Multi-choice is not doing chasing the sun. Multi-choice is not doing chasing the sun just because of the love that they have. They're also doing it because they have a thing called Showmax, and they're using the content created by this World Cup to bring eyes and subscribers to Showmax. Then, if you're not on Showmax, you have to have a DStv subscription in order to watch these things, right? Then, if you have Supersport, there we go, TikTok again. But anyway, I'll carry on. If you have sorry guys, my TikTok just got disconnected. Apparently, I've just been banned again for some reason. Jeez. Where was I? So when you look at what they're doing, they're trying to get people to come to Showmax. They're trying to get people to come on DStv. But remember, their core audience that watches this thing are premium subscribers. I have to create a reason for my premium subscribers to come back for this property that I own. And if I can control a narrative and give them something to keep them warm, that love that they see in that thing and that interaction they have with that content, do you know what's going to happen the next time the Springboks go and play? I'm going to have viewers who are interested in watching that thing. So it makes no sense to me that in SA football, a PSL match ends or starts and there's a picture of rugby. And that is showing you the extent to which they understand that these are DStv consumers that I'm also trying to get to, get the Showmax thing, possibly watch the Springboks later on. But you can't do the same for Bafana and Banyana Banyana. Keep it business. When Banyana won WAFCON, the black kit they were wearing, when they went to the World Cup, the black kit that they wore, sold out. Le Coq Sportif sold out at Le Coq Sportif because they were doing so well. The Bafana white jersey, the one that they wore at AFCON, was near sold out or sold out during that run that Bafana had to finish third. So surely, as a sponsor, as a technical sponsor, as people that make money, let's say, from the sales of these shirts, the reason why we signed the deal with Bafana, I would be urging SAFA, I'd be urging SAPC, can you make these guys so visible and remind us of those feelings that we got during AFCON so that we could go sell more of these jerseys? SABC One has a streaming service right now that's SABC Plus. They have the sole rights to everything to do with South Africa, with African football. Everything to do with African football. It behooves them to go and advertise that Bafana's play, because that's how you get more eyes. And maybe you don't need to go and do a Chasing the Sun, a whole big documentary, maybe. But surely a 1 minute reminder of the successes that these people have had, coupled with the announcements of when they're going to play matches. Surely that behooves SAPC to do that marketing and promotion as a business, on the business side, for the rights that you hold, to make them valuable. We all got the warm and fuzzies when Banyana Banyana was playing in the World Cup. We all got the warm and fuzzies when Banyana Banyana won the WAFCON last year. We all got the warm and fuzzies when Bafana got to the semi-finals of AFCON. So why wouldn't you try keep up those warm and fuzzies through content, through documentaries, through those type of things, so that when those guys go and play again, we're on it. Business-wise, I can put an ad slap bang in the middle of that broadcast. Look at Supersport. Watch the DStv Premiership. What happens during DStv Premiership matches every couple of so minutes? The screen gets smaller and you see, I don't know, McDonald's. You say McDonald's ads. Now those big deals. Why? There's eyes. Do you know what that does for the broadcaster? It brings money. SAFA, the South African Football Association. These are your top two teams. Yet no one knows when they're playing. No one knows who the players are. No one knows what they've gone through. No one knows what they built. No one knows what it was like for them not to be loved going into an AFCON and go out and be third. No one knows how it's like to not be a favorite anywhere and go out there and do well. No one knows how Banyana finally got over the WAFCON hump after coming second over all those years, Coach Desiree included. No one knows these things. Yet you expect an audience. You expect a love. You expect a narrative to be created. That is not going to happen on its own. So over and above the winning, it makes business sense for you to sit down and say, guys, these are the properties that I own. SABC has the largest broadcaster in the country. Free to air. SABC has radio stations with some of the biggest DJs that you know. Big names. SABC has some of the most watched shows. Moskim Sam, Mozalo, all of these shows. Surely putting a 1 minute clip, 1 minute reminder. Guys, remember who these people are. Oh, by the way, they're playing versus Nigeria soon. They're playing versus Nigeria. Nigeria knocked us out of the AFCON. It's now a World Cup qualifier. These are the people that I have to play against. They're playing soon. Let's rekindle those storylines so that we can craft a narrative that can start to look better. If you're going to only support Bafana when they win the World Cup, you are going to wait a long time. Because surprise, surprise, no African country has won a World Cup. If you're asking a team that was only readmitted into football in 1992, and you're expecting them to compete with the Springboks team that has a lesser pool of countries to compete with and has, oh, by the way, a whole bunch of infrastructure that makes sure that they are one of the best in the world, you're going to wait a long time. But you know what happens? In 2017 and 2018, when the Springboks were being beaten 57-0 by Australia, when they were losing out on trophies, when coaches were being fired, when emergency moves were being made to bring Rassie down into the coaching role as an emergency move, when Bosia Kolisi were being questioned about his captaincy, when the racial quota things were being discussed, Saru took hold of the narrative. Supersport took hold of the narrative and regenerated the love, the support for this team. Did it make them win the World Cup? Probably not. Probably wasn't a big thing, but what I can tell you, the stadium's full most of the time. You can't go anywhere without seeing the memorabilia. You're not allowed to forget that they've won. What of the other teams that have won? What of the teams that have taken very big steps? And it's not to say that rugby must give up money and go and do whatever. Rugby is just a comparison in terms of doing the right thing when you have winners. Doing the right thing when the tide is turning. Bafana is actually playing very well. The tide is turning. Yes, for country king, nation building. Yes, for growing the country. Yes, for visibility and all of that stuff. But also for profits. A full stadium means money. A Bafana, a Banyana that is well known, revered, loved, or there's a general good feeling around that team, brings sponsors. A team that plays well, and we're reminded of a team playing well, sells jerseys. We don't have to win to do that. Kaizer Chiefs hasn't won for 9 years. Yet they still do their activations. They still do their marketing. They still do all of that because they understand that keeping that relationship alive sells kits. Keeping that relationship alive brings sponsors. Whether they win or they lose. So SA football media, do better. Do better. These teams are doing far too well for them to be in the back of our minds, where we don't even think of them. How many people came onto my live when I was speaking about that topic and said they didn't even know Banyana had won. They didn't know that Banyana Bastyle, Sundowns ladies are the CAF Champions League champs. They've got a docu on SABC 1. Why? Hollywood bets Super League. So, number one, forget about all of the other components when you speak about the Springboks and versus the Bafana. The caption even said, learn. You can learn from what we can learn from the Springboks and how they are covered. Number two, realize that it's not just winning that makes you love a team. I'm an Arsenal fan. Last time we won the league was what, 20 years ago? They didn't stop marketing. They grew. Commercially, we're huge. Why? Take those little wins, celebrate them. Feed them. Themba's one is scoring goals versus Algeria. Feed them. Ronwen Williams saving those penalties. Feed them all of those things to craft the narrative. That's when you'll get fans back. But if you leave it to chance or just to results, you'll have a Banyana that wins the tournament. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, it seems that TikTok is TikToking, but those on YouTube, please subscribe. Those on TikTok, please subscribe, follow, share the videos, like the videos. I do this. This show is at least twice a week, but then the normal show is Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m. Fridays, 12:30 in the afternoon. Not only do we do watch-alongs, 7:30 during the week when there's games playing and on the weekends of the big three, but also we discuss very big topics to do with African football and South African football. So please tune in. We have incredible conversations there. You can watch all of them. They are available in full on YouTube, and you can catch up with all of the things we've had. We've had some incredible conversations. If you want to keep the conversation going, and this is not enough, we do have a WhatsApp group, an official Overthinking Football WhatsApp group. To join that one, head on over to YouTube, click on subscribe, click on join. There's a join button for memberships, and you'll gain access to the WhatsApp group. And I'll see you guys then. We'll have more of these conversations. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll see you then tonight at 7. Bye, everyone.